AbraKeyDabra is strong because they have really good, they have a good combination of everything that you need in a good team. Right? They have people that come up with good strategies, they have good mechanical players, and they have just so good synergy, and at the same time they are really motivated and they really work extra hard.
All the players in AbraKeyDabra are really great individually. A lot of them have put a lot of time into Mythic Plus previously, and they know so much about the game. They're really innovative. Playing against just good players is always hard, especially when they care about the game and practice as much as they do.
As veteran as you get in the MDI, the group was a super team of sorts at the beginning of this season.
AbraKeyDabra has gotten stronger this season for sure compared to the previous season. The addition of Smog is definitely an upgrade on the healer role, I would say. In my opinion, he is definitely the better healer, and he does fit the team and what's needed of a really good healer in the MDI format.
I think we are one of the teams that actually put most hours into it. I think it's also necessary to build up the team synergy, and also I'm new into the team, so building up the team synergy is really important at least.
Folks, it is time to send our first squad to the grand final. It's going to be Method NA going against AbraKeyDabra. And we need to talk about the history that these two squads have, because they have plenty. This is not going to be the first time at all that we've seen them go head-to-head. So to talk about all of that, we have Zyronic, Tettles, and Jack. My name's Rich. Hello. Let's actually talk about everything that they have already seen from each other throughout the year, Tettles.
I think for both of these teams, anything less than winning the whole entire tournament is a disappointment. They are, like AbraKeyDabra in that interview said, AbraKeyDabra was made as a super team. They have so many veterans of the MDI on both of these teams here, and for both squads, like I said, anything less than winning is a disappointment.
Oh, let's not leave out Method NA onto that one. When we talk about super teams, this is the North American team. They chose very carefully from the cream of the crop for the North American region. And we've even seen previously, it's ironic, where we had two tank players and Lighty and Nerf onto that one, and they said, well, we'll take both.
I think this map pool is really great for them to kind of prove the entire year for these two teams, because they have two reaping maps in this pool, both Underrot and Freehold. They got to go back to the spring season, pull out those strategies, and on top of that, the other map is still beguiling, so really pulling strats from the entire season.
And two different flavors as well, right? I think when we look at Method, we expect them to do really well at LAN based off of what we've seen from them before. I think this is a team that's going to be confident up on the main stage. But when we do talk about AbraKeyDabra, the question is, are all of these pieces going to play off? Are they going to synergize the way that we need them to? We're going to throw it down to Aya right now and see if the players had anything to say about that.
Thanks, Rich. I had a chance to speak with Zmok this morning of AbraKeyDabra, and I asked him his opinions on beguiling this season. He says even though it is a bit more difficult than reaping, they have been practicing 10 to 12 hours a day to try and get every route and every map completely nailed down. I also overheard JD this morning from Method NA, and he said, we just want to play 5 games today, Rich.
Yeah, I think that when you actually do look at beguiling as an affix compared to reaping as an affix, reaping is the cool uncle affix.
Yeah.
Always down to party, maybe even when it's not time to party. I really do enjoy reaping myself. And I think that these two teams, as Ironic already mentioned, they're teams that do like to get down in reaping.
Yeah, and especially when we're looking at Freehold from the very beginning, when we just saw Underrot, for example, being such a great dungeon to be able to take advantage of it, how well they were able to pull into the boss, how well they were able to execute onto this one. Freehold is chock full of mobs, so I'm psyched to see what we're going to get.
Right, the time for talking is done. This is going to be a matchup between the two top dogs. We are entering right now the upper final. Whoever wins this is going to be able to walk straight to the grand final. Let's see who's going to be able to pull down map number 1.
And now we're back with Time for Talking, Tettles. Time for Talking with Tettles.
Yeah, so something that's actually difference between these two compositions is that Zmok is actually on the Mist Weaver Monk, where JB is on that tried and true Restoration Druid. I think overall, the Mist Weaver Monk seems like it should be a little bit better of a pick for damage inside of this reaping environment, but you can't really ever go wrong with playing Restoration Druid.
That's true. That's just how it goes. And we're seeing Zmok putting up some big damage and healing with that Way of the Crane, getting himself started. We've seen so many times where popping defensives, getting in as deep into the mobs as they can, because you only have those 15 seconds before the damage buff wears off, before the healing transfers start wearing off as well. So I love how well he's going to be able to get himself in that position, start succeeding, and we're already seeing first boss coming up on the side of Method EU.
For Method NA, they actually popped with their Bloodlust in order to be able to go into Sky Captain Crag with this Reaping Wave, whereas AbraKeyDabra delayed it a little bit, got the Reaping to spawn, then used their Bloodlust in order to be able to do that. Dr. J actually ended up going down. He procced his Cheat Death and ended up actually dying. So that's 2 defensives that are gone from AbraKeyDabra. He actually didn't use his riposte. I wonder what ended up happening there.
And the Doctor was certainly out onto that one. And I was just about to say, even though Method EU pulled the boss first, that would have been their opportunity on the side of AbraKeyDabra to pull ahead and boss percentage. But with Dr. J down, that just definitely starts putting a little bit of a damper in them.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's just going to be momentum swinging throughout the dungeon. With this 20 to 30 second difference on whenever you actually end up getting your Bloodlust, I don't really assume that it's actually going to make a difference. This dungeon should probably last somewhere in the range of like 13 to 15 minutes just because of how these teams can pull around Reaping. Utilizing the double Unholy Death Knight will be very important for both sides.
It will be, and another interesting point into the healer differences on that one. You're able to see the Rusted Druid pump out way more damage whenever you're having to have him sit out at range. They should often be baiting any of the goops that are popping out of the bird on the side, but you also see in Smok, he has to sit away in the corner, make sure he's staying out of range of the shots coming out from Crag, and make sure he's just getting a little bit of chain lightning damage, but you're seeing the differences right now. 8 to 18k DPS. It's not even close on this one. Range DPS definitely helps.
Yeah, range DPS absolutely helps. It may have actually been better for Method NA to where they actually used their Bloodlust timing because it overlapped with the Trash Pack and with the boss at the very beginning, whereas AbraKeyDabra is like sole just reaping on the boss with their Bloodlust. It may have actually cost them just a little bit of time. Overall, you see Method NA actually killing the first boss, making their way towards that middle part of the instance, whereas AbraKeyDabra's first boss will be dying in just a few more seconds.
Yeah, not too terrible difference in terms of times under this one, and we still have a lot of room to work with. And keep in mind, we are going to be having to have the drinks going on right now. So the Bilge Rats, whenever you drink with them, you are going to be able to activate the Council of Captains setup. So this makes it a lot easier for them to quickly activate the boss. We're seeing a couple of the guys getting the drink debuff right now, and then they'll be able to set themselves up for a very large pull, because we have to keep in mind, once you activate that, a lot of the trash starts going friendly to you. So you want to be able to round up as much of it as you can. It's much easier if you're just having one last person activating the drinks, activating the bosses once you've already pulled them.
Yeah, so you actually see both sides here drinking really early to be able to make some of those mobs go friendly. I think it may just have something to do with some of the mobs that end up going friendly you would otherwise not be able to like chain some of the pulls. So you actually get a lot of leeway in terms of that. Method NA actually ends up pulling this straight into the boss here with all of this trash. You actually see the double DK here. They drop their D&D, they pop their Unholy Frenzy, and that trash pack gets evaporated.
It really does onto that one, and you're able to even see just a lot of healing coming out of Lighty as he was just taking a bunch of damage and had to heal himself so much that the healing meters thought he was a blood DK.
Yep, and you actually see on the side of AbraKeyDabra, Dr. J is running away. He ended up grabbing and starting that RP inside of the council area just to make sure that that pig is available whenever they are coming back. They end up pulling some trash into the boss as well. So we're actually seeing very mirrored approaches coming in out of both of these teams.
Yeah, there was a lot of requirements. There's a lot of it that had to happen all at the same time. Yoda had to run into that ring of booty, start the role play right there, get back to the group, while Lighty and Shakib with the tanks, the group, were grabbing all those mobs in together, making sure they establish threat, drinking the last drink to activate the bosses, and then be able to pull everything in. So we have Captain Raul and Captain Jolly who are taken down and looking pretty equal in terms of the damage.
Okay, so something that's actually different here is AbraKeyDabra actually proc their 40% Reaping Wave here, where on the side of Method NA, they're at 38% trash count, so they actually haven't procced that. So I wonder what the difference towards the back end with that second and potentially third Reaping Wave will actually be. AbraKeyDabra, I don't know if they actually had their cooldowns available, so how worth is it that they proc this second Reaping Wave into the boss? It could have just been inadvertently a little bit dangerous. You could require a little bit more healing, so the healer DPS could have just been a little bit lower on the bosses, whereas on the side of Method NA, they actually do down the second boss a little bit quicker than the Abra.
Yeah, it was kind of surprising not to see them activate the extra Reaping Wave onto that one. I'm wondering if maybe there was another mob that was missed that did end up going friendly once they did have their final drink. Didn't cause them to activate Reaping at all, but they got another big pull coming in on this one, and they'll be pairing it up with Ludwig von Tortolen pretty soon when that roleplay gets finished, but they have to be able to wrap up the pig first, wait a little while on top of that. Here he comes.
Yeah, so you actually do see him spawn. He actually does a sizable amount of tank damage because he does dual wield. You can actually block or dodge or whatever.
And he can also miss.
Yeah, he can also miss as well, all of the damage, but this trash pack is getting evaporated. You actually see the 2 death and decays going down right on top of Ludwig, and he is like 50% health now. So that's just the power of the Unholy Decay.
The power of the Unholy Decay, but I'd like to see them pull something a little bit more in on this one as well, since you only have Risen Souls and you have Ludwig going on right now. Yes, it is fortified. We have more Reaping coming in as well. I think there was just a lot more opportunity as we're seeing the full extent of the Reaping organizing right now. And I think that Nerf's getting into a pretty decent position if he wants to start pulling some of the mobs around any of the target dummies as well.
Yeah, so I think that's actually pretty interesting. They proc their 40% Reaping on Ludwig, but they're at 56% trash count. Now they're going to pull 2 more mobs and proc their 60% Reaping here, probably also into Ludwig. Of course, Ludwig, whenever
he's almost dead.
Whenever he's actually rezzed as a Reaping mob, he actually will last a long time. But for some compositions, this can actually be to their benefit because he is just like an extra vehicle to get more priority damage.
Yeah, that's very true, especially with having the Outlaw Rogue and keeping your wits about you as a right trait. So you are seeing Nerf grabbing a bunch of mobs in together. That way they will be able to proc that extra Reaping wave as Trothak, the Shark Slayer, the Shark Puncher, gets himself ready. We get to see the nice entrance. Let's see some fireworks. And they gotta be careful with those fireworks. Oh, they're getting a little bit too close.
Well, looks like the spectators have been burned. AbraKeyDabra also has down Ludwig. They're looking like they're doing a pretty similar pull. Both teams are going to proc their Reaping on Trothak, the Shark Puncher here, but it looks like AbraKeyDabra is just a little bit behind. Not something that 2% trash count can make up at least.
They did end up killing Ludwig. They're about to proc their third Reaping wave, as well. They have Trothak coming down in just a minute. It seems like they're a couple steps behind onto this one, and you have that plus the extra 5 seconds to say maybe it's 20, 30 seconds total in terms of difference from these teams. Still a lot of room for AbraKeyDabra in order to catch up on this one.
Yeah, just with teaming, it's actually pretty interesting that both of these sides actually elected to hit the brew so early in order to be able to get some of their count.
They haven't even won yet. Why are they hitting the brew so early?
No, they hit the brew on the second boss to be able to... Okay, stop.
All right.
But yeah, I think Abra may be able to turn this around. They actually have an insane amount of trash that they may be able to just like walk straight into the Harlan Suites area using the cannonball barrages in order to deal with all of that. But
I don't think that we're going to see any more trash out of AbraKeyDabra. Once they kill this boss, when they kill all the surrounding mobs in the periphery, they're going to just go straight to Harlan Suites' room and just grab everything on his island.
Did JB just get meleeed by the lost soul of Ludwig?
Yar, matey. You don't want to be messing with Ludwig.
What? He just died, like, randomly. I think he got meleeed, though.
It might have also been some of the sharks running around because it's important to note that any of the slows that are going on to them can start just aggroing them insanely and making it so that only any of the chum lying around in those areas can be stopping them. So might have been a bit of a combination on that one, since he was standing pretty near to the boss's charge, and he's taking care of every single shark that pops up.
Yeah. So this is actually a really close matchup. I think, like you said, AbraKeyDabra actually is catching ground a little bit. They may actually only end up being about 20 seconds-ish behind. You see Method NA here is starting to get some of that extra trash in order to be able to bridge the gap, whereas AbraKeyDabra just dealing with the lost soul of Ludwig and just single targeting down the boss here.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how much trash is left on Harlan Suites' final island, but we're fully expecting both of those teams to be able to run in there, make sure they're grabbing everything, rounding it all up. They have 2 more Reaping waves potentially to deal with on this one. Hopefully they'll be only having 1, since they'll be trying to kill Harlan Suite just as the last one spawns. But they're going to have quite a ways to go. There's a lot of trash, and there's going to be a lot of danger in that island as well.
Yeah, so you actually saw a mob sapped on the side of Method NA, and then, so then they shadow melted off the 2 mobs that they were actually pulling on the bridge. Now they're using their shroud to be able to make it towards Harlan Suite, of course getting access to the cannonball barrage. AbraKeyDabra doing something very similar.
We're going big? Are we grabbing everything?
I don't think they're going to grab everything. I think realistically they're
grabbing everything.
Oh.
They're grabbing everything out of this one. You got the double unholy DKs. You gotta grab everything. We're at BlizzCon, baby. Harlan Suite been pulled, as well as all of his surrounding guards. And a big mess of damage going to be coming out for those unholy DKs as they're getting some very big stacks and absolutely popping off.
Yeah, so utilizing the Unholy DK is pretty important. Whenever Harlan Suite is above 70% health, he will actually only spawn 1 cannonball barrage at a time, whereas once he is actually below that 60% threshold, he will spawn it on 4 members, excluding the tank there, and that makes it really easy for you to be able to kill trash with. However, whenever you have double Unholy DK, apparently you can pull that middle path.
You don't even care.
Yeah, you don't even care about getting all 4 of them. You can just go all the way in.
That's right. I mean, we've seen AbraKeyDabra as well. They did end up pulling the boss. They're at 78% left on the trash percentage. So going to be looking for Method NA once the next round of cannon fire is going to go out. They grab that next set. Again, all of that cannon damage from Harlan Sweet will be blanketing damage onto those ads. You're just seeing all of the pools of reaping spawn as they end up dying. And they still got a little bit more trash, but we still do have, I believe, 2 or 3 packs left remaining on this island. And we got a whole bunch of reaping mobs on the way.
It's been interesting to see what's occurred. I feel like AbraKeyDabra actually just got off to a little bit slower start at the very beginning of this matchup, and since then they've just been right on Method NA's tails. Unfortunately, it looks like they may end up losing it. Harlan Sweet, once he actually does dip below 30% health, he will cast his cast again, and then he will take 50% increased damage. Method NA only needs 1 more percent, so barring a catastrophic wipe, they're probably going to bring this home. AbraKeyDabra has their Bloodlust rolling. They're doing the last little bit of trash that they need to be able to complete the instance as well currently.
That's right, AbraKeyDabra not too terribly far behind, but now that Method NA has gotten sub 30%, they're pumping in that extra damage, and it does look like they are going to be primed for taking game number 1 from AbraKeyDabra. They're getting that last bit of trash. I thought they already had it wrapped up with them. That should be enough for them to wrap it up and take game number 1.
BlizzCon, I think it's pretty clear how these two teams made it into this scenario to even be in this upper final. We definitely are going to have a series on our hands. The question is, are we going to see this one go all of the way to a game 3? That first map's ironic, already very close.
I mean, this was so fast. I think it's like 2 minutes faster than any other Freehold with Reaping that we've seen all year round. And the thing that I really want to point out here is the efficiency of all the pulls that both teams did. They did like 4 major pulls, and every single major pull was pretty much with a boss or right before a boss with Reaping. They had 22% by the first boss, 40% by the second boss, 60 or 70% with the third boss, and then they just killed the last trash with the final boss. And the thing about this was both teams were so close. 1 death on the board. They were probably only 20 seconds apart, so really it just came down to who was more efficient with their Unholy DK AoE, and Method NA just happened to be just that little bit faster this time around.
Do we think that that is really what it comes down to, in your opinion as well, Tettles? Does it come down to the Unholy DKs?
So making sure that the mobs are stacked up really tight is by far the most important thing. I think Method NA actually started getting their lead at the very beginning of the instance with just making sure that the mobs were grouped up, how they line of sighted, and just all of that accumulated into the difference that this actually ended up making. It was kind of interesting that AbraKeyDabra was just a little bit slower with their first pull, especially since they were playing that Mistweaver Monk.
I think some of it is also on the setup time. Getting those mobs in together, how much time it takes to be able to round all them up. Yes, it's important to make sure they're going to be stacking as well, but also the time, the mechanics that start coming into that. Having to look at grabbing all the brews, you can activate the council fight while also going to the Ring of Booty to make sure that you're starting the pig. All those things just take up and eat up a lot of time, and when you're seeing people who might be missing out on maybe a speed potion here or there or something along those lines, it starts to impair and starts snowballing, you know?
That's really always been the thing with this dungeon as well. There's just so much going on. You can call it shenanigans, you can call it whatever you want. If you start falling a little bit behind, it very quickly cascades. Tettles, do you think that that's something that can extend a little bit further as well?
Yeah, and whenever you are facing a team that is equal to maybe a little bit better caliber than you, it is a mere game of seconds there. We saw and we predicted that AbraKeyDabra was only like 15 to 20 seconds behind. That's just like one minor mistake that can cost you a game. So this series is very, very close.
This series is going to be an enjoyable one to watch. And when we return, we're either going to see a team get another hot 2-0, or we are going to see our first series that makes it all the way to a game 3.